Rate? Yeah, I don't know. Overall, it's how much leniency do you give the game's launch with their political war-torn climate, right? And how much do you not, from a consumer perspective? Like, that's just like a subjective thing. The game itself overall, if we're to just leave that aspect out of it for right now, honestly, man, that was like 6.5 ish. But I say this with, and I'll go over it in a sec. I say this very much with the like belief that this game over time, once they fix a lot of the stuff up, not just bugs, but just address some of the just glaring issues with systems, will be like a straight up like 9 out of 10 game. Like, this game has the opportunity to make a massive redemption story and be absolutely amazing, especially when they add co-op and multiplayer and stuff like that. But, like, the reality is, if you just, like, peel back any layers of, like, stalker tribalistic fandom and anticipated AAA title and political climate they're in, the reality is the game was very buggy. It got really bad in the second half, as we all know, whoever watched. I think of like, it wasn't a 7-hour playthrough. It was probably like more like 60, 65, because of just like AFKs and stuff like that. And like we had to reload and lose a few hours here and there. But like, I literally think a substantial part, like a shockingly unfortunate amount of time of that playthrough was actually just spent holding the W key, running through the world. Straight up. Like, it just fucked the pacing of the game so bad. And I know this comes back to like, oh, you know, but like their A life was broken and stuff like that. And that's totally true. I agree, right? It would be a very different experience if you weren't running 2 kilometers that takes 10 minutes every time through a dead world when you had stuff going on, right? But even then, even if the world was more lively and fun around you, at some point you're trying to get where you want to go. And just like the feedback loop that I was talking about the other day between repair costs needing to sell, over encumbrance, and stam bar, like that just fucking 4 horsemen of disaster for this game was just such a killer, dude. It sucked the life out of the game. And the fun moments you'd have, like the fun set pieces with like the Circa headquarters, which is, in my opinion, probably one of the best parts of the game. You know, that being balanced immediately with like 20 minutes of RP walking, and keep in mind we had a stam mod halfway through as well. For me to have to install a mod with how stubborn I am, it tells you something, right? It's got a lot of problems, dude. Bugs, pacing issues, system issues, definitely a bit of a slog at the end too. Like, they just like way too many enemies, man. Like, way too many enemies. Like, it was literally like 2 hours of just nothing but enter a hallway, 3 to 10 enemies, enter a hallway, 3, and it's like, okay, I get it, dude. The story was okay in the end. I thought it was pretty good. But I feel like the peak of the story for me was like the Faust moment and the Circa moment. I think those were the best parts of the story, with the Faust ending at the end. I would say there was like the three peaks of the story. Everything felt like it went on a little too long, though, especially towards the last third of the game. There was a lot of like, meet this guy here, 3 kilometers away. You get to the guy, he's like, oh, I'd totally tell you where to go, but I left my cat in a tower up of 1.5 kilometers away. You have to go get me my cat first. And then you go get his cat. And, you know, there's just like a lot of just busy running around for no reason. I need to like sleep on it, and I'll probably make like another post like I did with Veilguard, but it was rough, man. I totally understand why a lot of people dropped this game after 5 to 10 hours in. Because it's very slow with only like little snippets of fun stuff. And once that fun stuff wears off, once that honeymoon phase, like I say, wears off, once you realize that the AI is actually really bad and the game's not that hard and You get, you appreciate the environment and how amazing the environmental effects are, but that only carries the game for so long. Eventually you're like, I'm not wasting my time with this right now. Straight up, right? Straight up. I know it was a slog for viewers too. I look at my viewer count and stuff all the time. We've had really low viewership for the past 2-3 days because of this game. Even like regulars here, like Waldor, suggesting I install mods so I can get the game done faster and stuff, Like, I'm aware of it, but obviously we were going to finish it at this point. I don't know. It was just off, man. It was just off. It went on too long, and there was just a lot of what made it go on so long was just like the really, like just the RP walking in the inventory system and just too much traveling doing nothing, But I do believe that, honestly, this game will be an absolute fucking banger in like 12 months from now. Straight up. But right now, it was rough. It was rough. And I'll address for a second, like, the whole, like, political climate shit, because I see online a lot of people, like, there's two sides, right? People complain about the game in the same manner I'm complaining, and there's people like, hey, dude, like, be a little, like, forgiving and stuff, they're in, like, a war-torn country, and it's like, I get that. It's just, I guess everybody's, like, moral compass or moral, like, gradient lies, well, somewhere, right, along the gradient, in terms of, like, how much are you in the direction of, I don't really care, I'm a consumer, I paid AAA price for this, and this is what we got, and blah, 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 versus, like, I understand, like, that there's bugs and all this kind of stuff. You guys are in the situation you're in, and you're in developmental hell, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of up to you. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there, but I do, to be a little, like, rough here, I do believe that, like, you are, at the end of the day, you did pay $60, right? You did, like, you're fully entitled to judge this game as any other game in the world, as you would any other game with any form of political drama or any form of, like, social drama or whatever, because there's been a lot of those in the past few years, right? If you want to, like, give a nod to them being able to still push out the product they did under the conditions they're in, sure, great. But that doesn't, for me, mean like, oh, well, I'll take it from a 6.5 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 because they're in those, because of the situation they're in. Automatically, the game gets a pass to be one of the best games of the year. Like, it's just not how it works, man. And I do believe that, certainly, like, given their entire situation, yes, I do understand that it does affect things like the amount of bugs in the game. It was very clear to me that, I mentioned in the past couple of 2-3 days, a lot of the side content was very front-loaded in the game, right? And it's about when we got to that really buggy Zalissa side content where we saved the town, spent like 2 hours with that bug shit, and then left it, and it still failed anyway. I felt like that's kind of where they got to in the majority of their side quests, and then just, they just didn't have time to add more and bug test, because all of a sudden you were getting like 8 to 10 side quests per zone, and then it just like went to like 1 every 2 zones, and then just like barely any in the last few hours of the game. To be fair though, that was a little breath of relief, right, for me, but it was, yeah, that was weird. And the amount of bugs, the game was actually weirdly polished at the beginning, and then it just started bugs towards the end, clearly because they ran out of time, under pressure, all that kind of stuff. So stuff like that, I'll give a nod to. I understand, and I get that, and that's why it's one of those, like, in 12 months it'll be better thing. However, personally, I will criticize heavily things that I don't think have anything to do with being pressured to launch things, whatever, that were just literally developmental decisions, like the STAM, the economy, like all that kind of shit. Like, those aren't like, man, I wish we had more time to do what? If we had another 12 months, we would have made the STAM better. No, like, that was like your decision. It was like that in the first game. And I feel like what they did is, because there's a big fandom towards the first Stalker game, it really felt like what they did was take a lot of the systems from the first game from 15 whatever years ago and try to put it into this new game 15 years later to give it that Stalker feeling. But the reality is, a lot of those systems, just from a gameplay perspective, are completely fucking deprecated and old and shitty. Nobody wants, like, inventory caps like that. Nobody wants STAM caps like that. Nobody wants armor to cost 200,000 repair and you have to find new armor. Like, that might have been fun to like the fandom of this series like whatever years ago, but it's just shitty now, and should just like not have made it. Like it just should have been modernized big time, you know? Because it was just a slog, dude. And then just shit with like the AI was just like not good and stuff. It's just, yeah. But I am glad we saw it through. I do think, like I said, weather effects fantastic, immersion in the world, like even without a life. I mean, just like literally aesthetically fantastic. I know I complained about the night a lot because it was like literally annoying with combat and hard to see, but it still looked great. It felt great in that sense. Some of the story set pieces were great. The story overall I thought was solid. Some of the side quests were pretty darn interesting. Weren't just like, some of them were like a little boring, but some of them were actually pretty cool, and they like fed more into the main story. The combat, the thing is, the guns all felt. I hate the mouse smoothing. Obviously, I know we trolled like I'll salute same LOL. I just the mouse smoothing's a crusher for me. But some games just do it that way. But like leaving that aside, the gunplay felt good. Aesthetically too, like it felt great shooting your shotgun. It felt great shooting your sniper. It felt great popping your pistol. Like all of that was great. Unfortunately, most of the time and what you used it on was not that like challenging to like what's the term I'm looking for? Like a lot of that satisfaction was taken away or never really reached a higher level of satisfaction because the combat was just very brute force, shitty human AI, all that kind of stuff. The mutant combat was even worse, man. It was just like the game so badly needs, if that's how they want to keep their mutant fights, so badly this game needs like a sidestep or a small dash or like something like that, because it's just so fucking annoying fighting mutants. Like it literally just became like mutants not dropping loot on top of it. It's just like weird ass decisions that like it's just, in my opinion, was a misread on like their audience and what like this game, what would be good in this game in some senses, you know what I mean? Yeah, not engaging. Like, it was fun at the beginning, and then it just kind of got like, the looting and exploration dopamine drip I thought was really fun, really good. Even now at the end, there were some areas we passed that I was like, ooh, I would like to go in there if I wasn't already burned out on the game and I would just want to finish. But on top of that, as a complaint was, yes, most of the places you explore rewarded you with loot. Sometimes you'd find stashes, some cool stuff. The coolest moments are when you found like a gun or an attachment, but man, that was like 5% of the time. Sometimes you do these like jump through ridiculous holes to get to this stash and you're like, oh wow, this has to be something crazy. You need to open it up and it's like a can of food and like a bottle of vodka, which is frankly all you need. And it was just, it started to be like, you know, it's just like the exploration was fun, but not rewarding in the long run. It was just very uninspired loot that made you just be kind of like, fuck it. Like, you know, the fun of exploring that random bunker over there is just, I know there's a high chance I'm just going to get like some bread and sausage and like, fuck it. So, yeah. That's too big for how much worthwhile loot there is sprinkled in there. Yeah, they need to just add a ton more. And even just things like, I know some people don't care about this stuff, but it would have been nice to see different types of food, different types of canned food. I don't know, you know, like different types of, well, vodka's like a mainstay for them, but like, you know, like not just sausage and fucking bread every time. Like, man, I saw a dude that has pickles on his goddamn plate. I want some pickles, you know, like shit like that. You don't like sausages? I do. And in fact, the sausage in the game, I love that kind of sausage. My parents get that all the time. Sometimes I have some too. But, you know. Yeah, mutants were definitely way too bullet spongy, and humans were way too easy. I mean, they became very tanky at the end, obviously, because they just followed the same formula as the first game. The first game ended in the same way. It was just a slog through elite humans nonstop. It was the exact same thing here. Again, just like 2 hours of just grinding, right? Yeah. In their defense for the variety, it's in very close, like, faithfulness to the setting. Sure, but, like, you literally saw other types of food in the world, so you can't tell me you can't make pickle as a food then, right? As an example. Like I'm not talking that they should have an entire palette of 300 different types of food. I just, honestly, like, an extra 2 to 4 things would have gone a long way, in my opinion. Like, it didn't need to be that much more. Just a few more. Mutants being raid bosses and humans dying after 1 to 2 shots didn't look great. Well, it's weird. Like, that dichotomy is weird because what would have been the better solution? Obviously, it wouldn't be very fun to sit there and have to shoot humans in the head 6 times like Division either, right? I think the better solution would have been obviously mutant health to go down a bit, maybe ammo to be a little more scarce. I don't know. I certainly, once again, critics, right? Like, you know, when I peeked a couple of reviews like early on and shit, they're all like, it's a brutal world. You have to make decisions on how to, you know, with your limited ammo and healing. And I'm like, what? Like, bro, are we playing the same game here? You know, like, what are you saying, dude? The game could be smaller without losing anything important. In its current iteration, I very much agree. I think in its full realization that I'm sure they want to have X months, whatever, year, 2 years from now, I don't know if I agree anymore. Because thinking about this world full of life, full of properly working A-life, co-op, all that kind of shit, reconsidering their travel times and stam and stuff like that, I could see this world getting filled out really nicely. Adding some more items, maybe some more monster types, whatever, right? In its current iteration, I completely agree, though. I completely agree. So, yeah, I don't know. Overall, my advice is, if you're unsure about this game right now, I'd probably, unless you're on Game Pass, you're a huge Stalker fan, you already know about, / a patient person, you already know about all the issues with the games, all you want to do is just play some good old Stalker, I'd say do it up, right? Otherwise, man, just wait. Like, straight up, just, like, wait, like, a year. Because I would advise you not to mar your first experience with this game and have some of the fucking emo shit I'm talking about, because I do believe that this game in like a year from now is going to be a vastly different experience than it is now, which is a shame because a lot of people won't come back to it. That's just the way the video game consumer market is. You get one shot at launch, and 0.1% of the time you have a redemption arc like you know, Cyberpunk 2 and No Man's Sky and stuff like that. So cool. What did you guys think from the viewership perspective? I mean, I can only guess, dude. I see my numbers. I pay attention to this stuff. It's not even about the viewer numbers, just the level of chat engagement was like pretty low coming up on these last few days. You originally said 6 out of 10? Yeah, I think I sat him to 6.5 in the end. 6.5 in the end. Just sad it didn't turn out too well. Yeah, I know you and like Ruski and stuff were really looking forward to this. I was excited for it too, because I started really getting into it, looking into the game a little more before it came out, and I was ready for bugs and that, you know, that kind of stuff doesn't usually stop me from, like, I can't remember the last time I was like, I can't play this game, it's just too buggy, or like the FPS is too low. Like, I usually just go through it, but it's just the entire package, man. It was just so sloggy. It just, there was a couple of times on like day 2, 3, and like a little more again on like day 5. This was like day 8, by the way, where I seriously considered quitting. Like, I was very close, and then, I don't know, I kept through it because the Circa thing, like, kind of put me back in line and shit like that, but I was like, fuck, dude. It got pretty dire a couple of times for me, to be honest. I started really well at Overstayed as Welcome, then the bugs. The bugs did get really bad. We probably lost about 5 hours overall to bugs. I remember that side quest in Cordon, reloading it, and that lab where we couldn't load up our saves and we had to go back. Like, it was pretty rough. I'm not expecting S.T.A.L.K.E.R to be anything special. I was honestly more hyped to chose to play the OG, but I really rushed experience for you both due to the language barrier and the lack of mods. But you know what my stance on modding is, right? If a game needs substantial modding to be good, then what the fuck is that? Now, if the base of the game is amazing already, and you have a, you know, like Terraria, and then you have like Calamity mod on top of it, that's cool, that's awesome. But needing to install like rampant, like in this case for 2, needing to install like rampant stam mods and inventory mods and sell red gear mods and economy mods and like a ton of mods to make the game palatable, like, that's a big problem to me.